Yeah, this is my poster presentation. It's about exploring manager understanding of culture intelligence and effectiveness of management paradoxal mindset. Managing R&D multi-diverse paradox engineering trend in IT sector. This is quite long title. I will try to explain it, and because you see on this slide almost everything, it's quite hard to follow what actually important, what not. But this slide design, at least try to design it, you can start from any point and then you can dive to any other point. Plus there is no PowerPoint slide presentation, so I have to give you some context of what it's about. So I will go back to the title in a few minutes, but I will start from rationale this thing and what it's about. So it's in managerial management in IT sector have very specialized managerial rule, because for last 20 years management in IT industry has changed. It started from waterfall process, like all top to down. Now it's shifting to agile process development, like very fast development cycle from the customer perspective till the delivery. Like you can very fast deliver small section of the product, a small feature of the product, by doing it, splitting into the sprints, or splitting into the very short time scales of 2-3 weeks. So in 2-3 weeks you can change completely scope what you've done before. Therefore, you have a team of engineers, 5 to 10 people of engineers, and you can say and navigate them, oh, today you're doing this, and in 2 weeks' time you might do something else, completely new features. So the engineer is not tied with very strict long-term vision. You not really start of the project and do it 6 months, and then after 6 months to see if the product is solved. Of course, on the starting of the product, you can say what is happening. But when the product is start on the sale journey, the feedback from the customers and feedback from the whatever users of the product can come in and, oh, we need to fix the bugs frequently, we need to fix this, we need to add this feature, we need to add this. So the management of the engineers is very much on 2-week cycle, or 2-3 week cycle. So the engineers in the team is very important. So my research is about whether the manager having cultural intelligence, knowledge and cultural perception of who he is managing, because the engineers could be from different cultural background, and whether the manager having paradoxical mindset linked to have his better management, like his decision is better managed, he can navigate the work in between managers much better. So whether having these 2 skills. So these 2 skills come back to what the teams in the management are, why they are important. Not just the manager, teams. Teams in IT industry mostly construct from at least 3 different groups of people. One is multicultural, you can see it here, for example, in the middle there. People who born in one country and not necessarily work there in IT industry in the country. They move, get acquired qualification in another country, and then stay working there or maybe back to the home country. They received somehow, their perception of culture is changed because they actually get acquired new culture when they study, when they work, and in the country where they live in. The second group of people, neurodiversity people, it's well known. It's always been around us. It's just not been publicly advertised. Or your neurodiversity. Many types of diversity now openly discussed and openly perceived and openly diagnosed. Autism, dyslexia, and different types of dyslexia, different types of autism, etc., etc., etc. Those people working in IT industry as well. And some of them are openly saying who they are, some only not. But the manager, whether he understands or perceives this, is deal with these people accordingly or not. And third type, which I will argue, is all other types of diversity, which is come from the 39 types, acquired types, like gender, sexuality, disability, and etc., etc., etc. I would argue everyone come to some kind of formal diversities, because the diversity might be temporal, like sickness, sort of. The person not react anymore the same way been reacting as wasn't sick, or some problem in the family, for example, and then his reaction is changes. So the manager must be more navigating these people around and and knowing that this can be blocker to what he's trying to allocate the task for. So I call these teams, which is the teams is actually working together, 5 to 10 people in the IT industry, in the IT team. And here we come to the neurodiversity bubble, where it's intersection, multicultural, diversity and neurodivergent people at the same time. So the person itself who work in the multi-diverse team is very complex. And manager who don't realize it, he kind of don't realize and deal with this as its goal. Therefore, I call it multi-diverse team paradoxal. Because one person from this equation might kind of work, and if you give him some job, he can do this effectively. But when 2 or 3 people trying to make the same functionality, same features, they have to talk on day-to-day basis. They have to provide extra information on day-to-day basis. And because those people are multi-diverse by whatever they are, they might not really communicate really well in between. So the manager have to step back and say, okay, I navigate the problems that coming in the multi-diverse team, which is paradox. So here we came to my aim of object. So my aim is explore the managerial cultural intelligence or cultural knowledge about other cultures, because this is kind of pre-basic. If the people in your team multicultural, you need to understand, not just understand cultural knowledge of different cultures, you need to understand how you can adapt his work to cultural knowledge. And effectiveness of paradoxical mindset, which is skills that is not, you cannot born with a skill. You acquire the skill while you're working with the teams who is paradoxical frames, who is very hard to deal with. And perception of when you take someone else from the team and say, oh, I cannot deal with him, I just fire him and take someone else, the paradox frame remain unchanged. So if you take someone else from equation, if you take some person from the team out of the team, doesn't mean paradox frame is changed. It's still the same paradox frame, just different people react differently. So the manager, without having paradoxical mindset, might never be able to deal properly with the team. So my one of the aim is, does it have connection between cultural intelligence and cultural knowledge and paradoxical mindset? Whether this connection is so visible, so manager having this connection have much better effectiveness of management of paradoxical traits. So I'm going to so the first objective is critically analyze the literature. The second is make the semi-structured interview. So I need to, my aim is to make a qualitative study with semi-structured interview, and then analyze this interview and come to the conclusion whether the link is actually visible between these 2 skills, or between those two theories, for example, cultural intelligence on one side and cultural knowledge on the one side, and paradoxical mindset and paradoxical dealing with paradoxical frames. And the last objective is provide some recommendation to the teams or companies, whether the transforming the team or whether the enhancing skills of the manager will help with a better productive and better effective development in the RTT. So I've touched a bit about theoretical underpinning, maybe because it's come from the core principle of paradoxical frames quite work well in isolation. Like I've told one person, people can work in isolation quite well, but when they're in connection, they might not well work together. So, and person who have a paradoxical mindset often better work in a stress and conflict situation. So his drive is not to find the simple way to find the solution. His ability to get and ask for brainstorming of different opinions, like one from neurodiverse and one from multicultural, knowing that both one neurodiverse person, for example, and multicultural cannot communicate well together, but be as a barrier between them, as bridge between them, asking them to communicate, asking them to brainstorm, and only having these both ideas from two non-connected persons say which idea is better, without saying, oh, just because you talk very well in English, this is the idea we're going forward. So this is kind of balanced approach. So and it's often it's already proven that people with paradoxical mindset actually have much better innovative solutions. So using this technique, they've come to much higher innovative solution in R&D industry, which is research and development. So I've touched rationale maybe a bit, because in rationale, there's a lot of research being done on cultural intelligence, mostly on the quantitative measurement, like how can we measure cultural intelligence quantitatively, because cultural intelligence as early and undefined is based on 3 or 4 constructs: cultural knowledge, cultural adaptation, and 2 more constructs. And measuring this from surveys, they come, okay, does person have higher cultural intelligence or lower cultural intelligence? However, my research is qualitative and using interchronistic approach with inductive research, uses semi-structured interviews. So I won't be able to get surveys and measure the cultural intelligence. I will give and it's very little research, qualitative research, making cultural intelligence, cultural knowledge actively, because it's very hard to get from the interview whether the person definitely have high cultural knowledge, because there is no number. I will need to understand whether the person definitely have sort of cultural intelligence, but compared to other people I'm interviewing, or maybe not. This is a bit of challenges of this research. Understanding the person definitely might have cultural knowledge, but whether the person actually effectively using this cultural knowledge navigate his workplace. And the same with paradox and paradoxical mindsets. There is a lot of quantitative studies, because it's mostly quantitative studies, how you actually say, oh, this person have a paradoxical mindset or not. It's just yes or no. But making it qualitative, will they be able to distinguish whether the person actually after interview does have this or expose the paradoxical mindset? This is the beauty of this research, because I don't know whether I will be able to find the link between 2 of these theories, and whether I will be able to find the paradoxical mindset for qualitative study. So the research philosophy, as I've touched, is qualitative study with inductive research, semi-structured interview, and probably thematic approach, maybe Goya thematic methods. It's not here, it's just in progress. I think it's something I've come up after discussing with Amanda and after reading about ground-based theory and seeing that ground-based theory is not really much fit to whatever I tried to research, but it's still in production. And my intended contribution is finding this relationship, of course, and filling the gap of qualitative study in both, actually, in cultural intelligence and paradoxical minds. So filling this gap and assess how the effective management of multidiversity is possible. And yeah, it's 3 contributions to my studies. It's also, thank you very much.
Thank you.